welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be taking a close look at Backyard Bird Chronicles by Amy Tan.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
I'm excited for this one.
I think a lot of people know her from her novels, but this is something a little bit different.
Yeah, this is pretty fascinating.
It's a personal nature journal.
Yeah.
And it focuses on her observations of the birds that visit her backyard in California.
Mm-hmm.
And it spans several years.
Yeah, and it's full of just like these wonderful sketches and essays.
Yeah.
It's really visually appealing, too.
Oh, absolutely. And I think for someone like you who's always so curious about the world,
Yeah.
I think you're going to really appreciate the depth of knowledge that she brings to each species.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the way she blends her, her knowledge and her personal reflections on these birds. It's really engaging.
Yeah, one thing that really struck me was how she talks about her journey into bird watching.
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting because she starts by talking about her childhood and how it was a difficult time for her. And nature, especially a nearby creek, it became kind of a refuge for her.
Wow. So it's like this early connection to nature kind of like laid dormant and then resurfaced later.
Yeah, it seems like, in her 60s, she starts taking drawing classes and nature journaling.
Mm-hmm.
And that really reignites her passion for the natural world.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And leads her to focus on birds.
Yeah. And what's interesting is this time it's not just about observing.
Right.
She becomes an active participant.
Yeah.
She transforms her backyard into this haven for birds.
She goes all out.
Yeah, she does.
Different types of feeders,
Uh-huh.
a water feature,
Oh, wow.
live mealworms as a treat.
Because she's not messing around.
It makes you wonder, though, like how much are we shaping their behavior
Yeah.
by providing these things?
Yeah, it's a good point. And she wrestles with that question throughout the book,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to disease outbreaks,
Right.
On the one hand, she wants to help these birds, but she also realizes that feeding them can have these unintended consequences.
Yeah, like when she mentions having to remove her feeders to prevent the spread of salmonellosis,
Right?
which is a bacterial disease that can be fatal to birds.
Yeah, that's a tough call.
Yeah, it is. But let's talk about the birds themselves.
Okay.
Her yard sounds like it's just this constant source of entertainment
Right.
with all the drama unfolding.
It does. She describes it as a stage,
Oh.
where all these intricate dramas play out.
Uh-huh.
You see rivalries, courtships, parenting struggles, the constant battle for survival,
Wow.
all within this carefully crafted habitat that she's created.
And she captures it all in such vivid detail.
Oh, yeah.
Like the time a mourning dove had to defend its mealworms against a whole gang of scrub jays.
Oh, my God.
You can almost picture this little, feathered Western showdown happening right outside her window.
That's hilarious.
I know.
Or the windowsill wars, where
Yeah.
different species are competing for that prime seed-eating spot. It's interesting how she portrays this competition not just as a struggle for resources,
Right.
but as a reflection of their unique personalities and adaptations.
That's a good point. And speaking of adaptations,
Yeah.
she talks about a one-legged golden-crowned sparrow
Oh, wow.
that visits her feeder.
It makes you wonder how that bird manages to survive.
I know, especially with the challenges of migration.
Yeah, and it highlights a theme that she comes back to throughout the book, the resilience of birds. Their ability to adapt and overcome these obstacles.
Right.
Even in the face of hardship, they find a way to thrive.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate them on a deeper level.
It does.
Now let's delve into some of the specific species she encounters.
Okay.
She seems particularly captivated by Anna's hummingbirds.
Oh, yeah, they're these tiny dynamos
Uh-huh.
with such fierce energy.
And she spends a lot of time observing their feeding habits,
Yeah.
noting how they rely on nectar.
Mm.
She even makes her own nectar to attract them.
That's dedication.
It is. It's like running a tiny bird cafe.
Right. But then she throws in this twist.
What's that?
She discovers that the male hummingbirds are basically deadbeat dads in the bird world.
What?
They don't help with nest building or chick rearing.
Oh, wow.
So it makes you realize how much we tend to project our own human values onto the natural world.
That's a good point.
What we might see as irresponsible is simply their natural way of life.
Right. And it raises the question, how much should we interfere?
That's a great point. But before we get too deep into the ethics of bird watching,
Okay.
I want to hear more about these hummingbirds.
Okay.
She mentions their mating behavior,
Yeah.
and apparently it's quite a spectacle.
Oh, absolutely. She describes these elaborate aerial displays
Uh-huh.
with the males chasing each other and trying to impress the females with their speed and agility.
Wow.
She even witnessed a male hummingbird performing what she calls a courtship slide towards a female on a branch moving inch by inch.
Okay, that sounds hilarious.
I know you can't help but chuckle at her descriptions. It's like she's bringing these birds to life with her words.
She really does. And speaking of bringing them to life,
Yeah.
one thing that really stands out is how she uses her artistic background to inform her observations.
That's a good point.
She doesn't just describe them, she sketches them, capturing both their physical features and their personalities in her drawings.
Right.
It's like she's seeing them with an artist's eye,
Yeah.
noticing details that others might miss.
Like when she talks about the pine siskins, those delicate little finches.
Yeah.
She draws a portrait of a fledgling pine siskin. And you can really sense her tenderness and fascination with this tiny creature.
Yeah, but she also uses her art to process difficult experiences, like when she finds a dead hermit thrush that has collided with her window.
Oh.
She draws the bird not to shy away from the tragedy,
Right.
but to honor its life and acknowledge the impact we have on the natural world.
It's a reminder that even in our efforts to create a bird-friendly habitat,
Yeah.
we can sometimes inadvertently cause harm.
Right, and that brings us back to her internal conflict about the ethics of feeding birds, which we'll explore further as we continue this deep dive. But for now, let's take a closer look at some of the other fascinating characters that grace her backyard stage.
Okay. You know, one thing that struck me about her experience with the pine siskins is how she describes a sick one landing on her hand.
Oh, wow.
It's such a vulnerable moment, and you can really sense her empathy and concern.
Yeah, it's a reminder that these aren't just abstract creatures,
Right.
they're individuals with their own struggles and vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And her encounter with that sick pine siskin brings up a bigger question that she wrestles with throughout the book.
What's that?
How much responsibility do we have for the well-being of these birds?
All right.
Especially when we're actively shaping their environment.
It's like she's constantly weighing the benefits of providing food and shelter
Yeah.
against the potential risks, especially during disease outbreaks.
Exactly. She talks about the salmonellosis outbreak and how she had to make the difficult decision to remove her feeders to prevent the spread of the disease.
Yeah,
It's clear that it pains her to do so,
of course.
but she recognizes the potential harm she could cause by intervening.
It's a reminder that even with the best intentions, we can sometimes do more harm than good.
Yeah.
But on the flip side,
Yeah.
her dedication to creating this bird-friendly habitat is really impressive. She clearly puts a lot of thought and effort into it.
She goes beyond just putting up feeders.
Right.
She talks about the importance of providing a variety of food sources,
Yeah.
from sunflower seeds to suet cakes to those live mealworms she mentioned earlier.
I know, and she doesn't shy away from the challenges.
No, she doesn't.
Like those pesky squirrels and crows.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like a constant battle to keep them from raiding the feeders.
She talks about the scrub jays and their problem-solving skills. They're incredibly persistent,
Really?
finding clever ways to circumvent her attempts to squirrel-proof the feeders.
It's almost like a game of wits between her and these birds.
It is.
I love that she finds humor in it.
Yeah.
You can tell she's both frustrated by their antics
Right.
and impressed by their intelligence.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, how much are they learning from us?
Right.
Are they adapting their behavior based on our attempts to outsmart them?
That's a fascinating question.
It is.
And speaking of intelligence,
Yeah.
she delves into the world of birdsong and vocalization, captivated by the complexity of their communication.
Yeah, she goes beyond simply identifying the different calls and songs.
Oh, right.
Trying to understand their meaning and purpose.
It's like she's trying to crack their code.
It is.
And I find that so relatable.
I bet.
As a bird watcher, I'm always trying to figure out what those different chirps and trills mean.
She describes how the calls of chickadees change depending on the threat level.
Well, really?
When a hawk is nearby, their alarm calls become more urgent,
Interesting.
alerting the other birds to the danger.
It's like a sophisticated early warning system.
It is.
It's amazing how much information they can convey with just a few simple sounds. And then there are the more complex songs, like the duets she describes hearing between a pair of oak titmice.
Oh, wow. That's not something you see every day.
It highlights her attentiveness,
Yeah.
her ability to pick up on these subtle nuances of bird behavior. She's not just a casual observer.
No.
She's truly immersed in their world.
She is, and that brings me back to the one-legged golden-crowned sparrow.
Right.
It's such a powerful example of how she connects with these birds on a personal level.
Yeah.
She's not just documenting their behavior, she's rooting for them,
Right.
worrying about their well-being, especially with the added challenge of migration.
It's a reminder of the precariousness of life for these creatures.
Yeah.
Even those that appear resilient are facing constant challenges.
And it's particularly poignant because golden-crowned sparrows are known for their long migrations,
I know.
sometimes traveling thousands of miles.
It makes her observation of this one-legged sparrow all the more remarkable.
It does.
It's a testament to the bird's determination to survive, and it speaks to Tan's own empathy and concern.
Yeah. But let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about her artistic background.
Okay.
I think it plays a significant role in how she approaches birdwatching.
In what way?
It's not just a scientific pursuit for her.
Uh-huh.
It's an artistic one as well.
Right.
She's not just observing, she's sketching,
Mm-hmm.
capturing these birds in both words and images.
Right.
Her journal becomes a canvas for her creativity.
And I love how she talks about the act of drawing as a way of deepening her connection to these birds.
Yeah.
She describes drawing a portrait of a fledgling dark-eyed junco.
Oh, wow.
And you can really sense her reverence for this tiny creature.
Yeah, it's as if through the act of drawing,
Yeah.
she's trying to understand not only its physical form, but also its essence.
That's a good point. And it's not just the cute and cuddly birds that capture her attention.
Yeah.
She also confronts the less pleasant aspects of nature,
Yeah.
like the death of the hermit thrush.
Right.
Her decision to draw the bird after finding it dead on her patio
Mm-hmm.
is a way of acknowledging the fragility of life
Yeah.
and the impact we have on these creatures.
It's a reminder that even in our efforts to create a haven for birds, we can't shield them from all the dangers they face.
That's true.
Yeah.
But beyond the individual stories, I think her artistic background also influences how she sees the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Her artistic sensibility allows her to appreciate the beauty and complexity of the natural world,
Yeah?
not just as a collection of individual species,
Right.
but as an interconnected ecosystem.
And that's something that becomes increasingly apparent as she spends more time observing her backyard.
It does.
She starts to see the relationships between different species, the predator-prey dynamics,
Yeah.
the competition for resources,
Uh-huh.
and even the symbiotic relationships that exist.
She describes the arrival of a Cooper's hawk sending the smaller songbirds into a frenzy of alarm calls and evasive maneuvers.
Wow.
It's a vivid illustration of the food chain in action. And it highlights the constant tension between predator and prey.
Right, and it's not just about the drama of survival.
Right.
She also observes the crows teaching their fledglings how to eat grit,
Oh, wow.
which is essential for their digestion.
Yeah. It's a reminder that even in these seemingly mundane moments, there's a lot of learning and teaching going on.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating glimpse into the social dynamics of these birds.
It is.
And it highlights the importance of observation.
Mm-hmm.
Tan is able to pick up on these subtle details because she's paying close attention,
Right.
not just to the individual birds, but to their interactions with each other and their environment.
And I think that's one of the key takeaways from her book.
What was that?
It's not just about identifying the birds.
Oh.
It's about understanding their behavior, their relationships, and their place in the larger ecosystem.
Right.
It's about seeing the world through their eyes.
And it's about appreciating the beauty and complexity of nature, even in a seemingly ordinary place like a backyard.
Exactly.
Oh.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay. Let's take a closer look at one of the birds that truly captures Tan's imagination,
okay, who's that?
the Anna's hummingbird.
Those tiny dynamos.
Yeah,
We touched on them earlier,
we did.
but I think they deserve a deeper exploration.
I agree.
What fascinates you most about her observations of these hummingbirds?
Well, it's their incredible energy, you
Yes.
know, and those aerial acrobatics that really capture her attention.
Mm-hmm.
Remember those windowsill wars we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the hummingbirds bring that competition to a whole new level.
They do. She describes them as tiny but fierce.
Yeah.
And I think that sums it up perfectly.
Yeah.
They're constantly battling for territory and resources,
Right.
and their aerial chases are like miniature dogfights.
Wow.
Incredible speed and agility.
And it's not just about aggression.
Right.
She also observes their courtship, displays those intricate dances where the males try to impress the females. She even witnessed one male performing what she calls a courtship slide,
Oh, wow.
inching towards a female on a branch.
A courtship slide.
Yeah, moving inch by inch.
Oh, my gosh.
It's like a bird version of a slow-motion rom-com.
That's hilarious.
I know, and it makes you realize that there's a whole world of drama and complexity unfolding in her backyard
Yeah.
that most people would completely miss.
It's true. She has a knack for capturing those little details that reveal so much about their personalities and behaviors.
Yeah, and she also doesn't shy away from the less romantic aspects of their lives.
Right.
Remember those deadbeat dads we talked about?
Oh, yeah, those guys.
The males don't participate in nest building or chick rearing.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the evolutionary pressures that led to that kind of behavior.
Right. But it's also a reminder that we shouldn't impose our own human values on the natural world.
That's true.
What might seem irresponsible to us
Right.
is simply their way of life.
Exactly. And speaking of challenging our assumptions,
Yeah.
one of the things I found most intriguing was her evolving understanding of bird senses. She initially believed, like many people, that birds couldn't smell.
I have to admit, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they have such incredible eyesight and hearing.
Right.
Who needs smell?
Exactly. But then she does some research and discovers that birds do have olfactory receptors,
Oh, really?
although they're less developed than in mammals.
Okay.
And she starts to notice how certain birds, like vultures, rely heavily on their sense of smell to find food.
So it's not just about sight.
No, it's not. And it's a reminder that we should always be open to new information.
Right.
And be willing to revise our understanding of the world,
Yeah.
even when it comes to something as seemingly basic as a bird's sense of smell.
Right. It's a great example of how she combines her scientific curiosity
Yeah,
with her personal observations.
absolutely. And speaking of observations,
Yeah.
her detailed descriptions of bird identification really stood out to me. It's clear that she's gone beyond simply recognizing different species. She's paying attention to those subtle variations in plumage and markings that allow her to distinguish individual birds.
So she's not just seeing a robin, she's seeing like robin-a.
Exactly. She talks about developing a system for identifying individual juncos
Wow.
based on their coloration patterns, noting subtle differences in the size and shape of their black hoods and white underparts.
So she's like a bird detective.
She's using her powers of observation to unlock the secrets of her backyard.
I know you're fascinated by animal cognition.
I am.
And this really speaks to that.
Yeah,
It makes you wonder how much individual variation there is in the bird world.
it does.
Not just in terms of physical appearance, but also in terms of personality and intelligence.
Absolutely. She even speculates about whether the intensity of the black brows and yellow crowns and golden crowned sparrows might be an indicator of dominance.
Interesting.
It's a fascinating hypothesis, and it highlights the potential for citizen scientists like her to make real contributions to our understanding of bird behavior.
Now I want to touch on one more aspect of her book that I found particularly powerful.
Okay.
It's the way she weaves her personal reflections on life loss and creativity
Yeah.
into her observations of the natural world.
It's true. That's what sets her book apart from a typical field guide or nature journal.
Right.
She's not just presenting facts.
Right.
She's sharing her own emotional journey and inviting us to connect with these birds on a deeper level.
Like when she describes finding a dead hermit thrush
Yeah.
that had collided with her window.
Right. It's a tragic moment, but it also prompts her to reflect on the fragility of life
Right.
and the interconnectedness of all living things.
It's a reminder that even in our efforts to create a safe haven for birds, we can't always protect them from harm.
That's true, but it also underscores the importance of appreciating the beauty and wonder of nature,
Yeah.
even in the face of loss.
And ultimately, I think that's the message that resonated most deeply with me. Backyard Bird Chronicles is a reminder that we don't have to travel to exotic locations to experience the wonders of nature.
That's true.
It's all around us, even in our own backyards, if we just take the time to look.
Amy Tan has opened our eyes to a world of fascinating characters, intricate relationships, and unexpected insights, all within a few steps of her back door.
Yeah, and after this deep dive, I have a feeling you'll be seeing your own backyard in a whole new light.
I think so too.
You know-
Who knows what stories are waiting to be discovered?
Maybe you'll even be inspired to start your own birdwatching journal,
Yeah,
just like Amy Tan.
that would be awesome. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Backyard Bird Chronicles.
Well,
We hope you enjoyed this journey into the fascinating world of birds and the power of observation.
yes.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those feeders filled.